Trollhunters. That's right. I've never seen Three Below or Wizards. I've seen all of Trollhunters, and all three of these shows are supposed to collide in a Netflix original movie this year. And you know what? It's time I talk about it. So I'm going to be reviewing every single episode of Trollhunters, Wizards, and Three Below, starting with the first two episodes, which both are two-parters that connect into each other, called The Beginning. This episode starts off, we meet Kanjagar, the Great, as they call him, and Bular, the son of... Crap, I'm forgetting his name, but whatever. The son of our big antagonist that they're hinting up that will come at the end of the final season of the show. And is it Gunmar? Yeah, it's Gunmar. That's what it is. And so, yeah, they're fighting, and we don't really know too much about it. One's wearing shiny armor, and he falls, dies, immediately showing us that these trolls can die through sunlight, and he leaves his amulet, which supposedly summons a thing called the Trollhunter, who I guess fights evil trolls from what we know so far. And we meet Jim. Jim is just this ordinary kid, I guess. And this is a side of the show we will see later on. This show is very generic. If you break this show down to its barest forms, it is a very generic, bland story. But what Guillermo del Toro is really good at doing, which he is the guiding force behind the series and a lot of other projects, and he does a great job at giving characters and life to things that are at their barest form generic, but he presents them in a way that is new and different. And it's really hard to define how he does that and how it happens in the show. But when you watch it, you don't feel that. It doesn't feel really generic. Except in these pilot episodes. It really feels generic. First of all, the first instinct we're shown of Jim is that his mom works at a hospital. We don't know anything about his father. And I think they mention it once or twice in the show, but they rarely ever mention his father in the show. And he's taking care of his mom, making meals for her, which is ridiculous. Come on. I mean, that's a really bad trope. He's I want adventure, and then he gets on and he's just, and it's a generic dialogue of that type of thing. He's got a stereotypical fat friend, which Toby becomes more than that throughout the show, but it's still like this episode presents them in their barest forms, and you see how they couldn't be expanded upon, but it's really bad in this episode. But we see how the characters, you see a bunch of side characters, which are presented in a way in this pilot like they aren't gonna mean something, like they're just kind of background characters, except for Claire, Toby, Arg, and Blinky, which Blinky's voiced by, I think, Kelsey Grammer, the voice of Slideshow Bob. I know it's the Slideshow Bob voice actor, but I can't remember if his name's Kelsey Grammer. But yeah, great voice actor. And, you know, we see those characters, and we see Bular, and we also see his teacher, which is revealed to be a changeling, or, well, they don't call him a changeling, but, I forget what they call him, but I guess we'll get to that when we get to it. But basically, they're like goblins that can take the form of other humans, other creatures, and things like that. And we see that. And yeah, we see that here. And it's a great dynamic with our characters of things that we can set up. I really don't like Claire in the show, and I think the episode ends with her, Jim, working at the play, which I think is one of the worst plot lines in the show. It doesn't really lead anywhere, except it's kind of like you have to have that, him trying to balance through high school life and troll life and things like that. I'm like, cool, but it's really dumb. Like, it doesn't really do anything else in the show. And her line at the end of the episode, I didn't really think, I just said it. That's acting. That is not acting. Actors have to read scripts all the time and follow scripts. That's part of acting. Like, come on. And her actress is terrible throughout all the show, and she's very frustrating, and she's not a very good character. She's the one character that is completely generic. There is nothing else to her. She does not add anything to this show besides being a love interest character, and sure, she fights in the final battle at the end of the show, and I guess is a big part within the show, a lot, but more than she needs to be. She adds conflict that doesn't need to be there. And it just, yeah, it's a good first pilot for just pitching what the show is, but it doesn't really rise above just pitching what the show is. It's not great like Futurama's pilot, where it's just a really funny, great episode that you could watch anytime without watching the rest of the series. This episode only works as a pilot episode. It doesn't work as anything else, and as that, I think it's fine, but it's just pretty meh. And I think that's not, it's not really showing the show's strengths, but it feels like one of those pilots you would see online, except this one had a lot of money into it. But we do see a lot of beautiful animation in this episode, which is great. And this show was made by DreamWorks. It's a lot more expensive than most animated shows like it would ever be. You can see a lot of the amazing backgrounds and designs and everything. It's great, fantastic. But yeah, great episode. Decent pilot, but we'll have to wait and see where the rest of the show goes.